Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be looking into object creation and specifically modeling tools that are available to us within 3D Studio Max. This is going to allow us to create some really complex forms ranging from character modeling to architecture visualization. You're going to be using these tools quite a bit. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of all the necessary tools that are available to us. Okay, let's get started. As you can see, I've got my perspective viewport maximized. So just a recap, it was the Alt plus W key, maximize and minimize. I'm just going to quickly go into my create panel here. Primitives, again, we went through some of them. So I'm just going to quickly go through most of them again. So for example, box, you can easily create a box like that. Right click to exit the creation mode. That's one of the other ones which we didn't touch last time. So it's the TextPlus. So you can easily create text elements like so. If you right click, you exit the object creation mode. If you want to edit the settings of any of the objects that you've already created, you can literally just select them and then go into the modify panel. So you're going to be moving in and out quite a bit into the create panel as well as the modify panel. So right now we're in the modify panel. As we can see here, we can alter all of these particular settings here. And what else we can do? We can also increase the segments within the object like so. And then we can enable or disable the mapping coordinates. Don't worry about these for the time being. It's not necessary for what we're doing right now. So again, go and change our text. We can literally go here. We can write Max text is great. Okay, as you can see here, then we can move it on a separate lines like so. Like that. We got tons of options available here. So just to give you a little bit of brief history, I mean, the text in 3ds Max was never that great, but due to the recent updates that Autodesk has made to the text elements, it has gone from pretty much useless to really necessary now. So, but yeah, all these settings here, you got options through all the settings. You got the phones, you got leading size, tracking, and then you got the geometry as well. So before you had to write the text and then you had to extrude it. But now all of these options are available to us like so. So you can extrude it directly. And then you can also even perform the bevel operations as well to the edges, which is super cool. Like I said, we had to do all of these bits manually before, which was a pain. So yeah, any sort of like text related operations, you can do quite a bit. Okay, all right, moving forward. So that's what's available to us in the create panel. The other bit I wanted to touch base on was the, which is quite a useful bit, which is the layer explorer. So for example, if I create a box object here, as you can see, it actually remembers the last settings that we use for the segments. So for example, we create a box here and we create tons of different boxes around. The problem is, of course, we got the boxes here, and then we can also see the names of the boxes, which is fine. So that's box 01, that's box 06, and all that. But you can imagine it can get quite crowded after a while, and it's going to be a nightmare to actually manage all of your scene. So in order to combat that, we got a really nice tool here called the Layer Explorer. So you can enable it by just hitting this button here. So that's called Toggle Layer Explorer. As soon as you do that, it's going to open up another bit here. So now, as we can see, so this is our default layer. We can see that it's all currently enabled. And then if we do a drop down, we can see all of our objects that we create are actually showing up here. So just a quick check. If after toggling this button, you don't see the stuff that I'm currently seeing here, just make sure you're in the layer explorer here in the bottom. So there's actually a drop down menu here, and then you can select all your specific target bits here. So I've got the layer explorer, which is right here. So apologies if my face is in the way, but yeah, it should be there. So yeah, make sure the layer explorer is selected. Anyway, so just to give you a quick overview of what's happening with the layer explorers, as we are creating new objects, we can see them appearing here in the list. So then let's just right click and just step out. So if you want to create a new layer, it's as simple as just hitting this button to create new layer. So now we can call this spheres. Okay, and as you can see, this is the default layer now, and we can also see that it is currently sitting inside our default layer, which is not really recommended. So what you can do is here, you can actually click it and just drag it out, just put it outside like this. Also, the other bit is, just going back to it, this is the default layer now. So we can see the 3 planes highlighted. So at any moment you can change the default layer to whichever layer you want. By doing that, what's going to happen is that, for example, if this is the default layer, so any new object that we create is going to automatically shift into this particular layer, so which is super helpful. So let's just organize our scene a little bit. So let's just select all of these spheres that are sitting in the default layer, and we can then just drag them straight over to the sphere layer. So now if we turn on and off the visibility of this layer, only our sphere elements get disappeared. The other bit you need to remember, most of the newcomers who experience 3ds Max, they usually get confused by this quite a bit. So for example, right now the default layer is off. Okay, so at any moment now, if I try to create a new object here, let's say I try to create that, it's going to throw up an error or a warning saying objects cannot be created on a hidden layer. So what do you want to do? You want to unhide the layer or abort object creation? Before, there was no check like that. So we used to bang our heads against the monitors and we couldn't figure out, all right, we're trying to create an object, but it's not showing up. What's happening? So that was the reason. So good one, Autodesk. You've finally sorted this after like 10 years. So anyway, so what we can do is we can unhide the layer, or we can we can just literally do the unhide the layer. So now we can easily keep on creating our objects in the sphere layer. Okay, so that was sort of like the basics of the layer system, how it works, and it's super useful. You're going to be using it quite a bit when you have more complex scenes coming up. The other bit I want to touch base on is, let's just get rid of all of our objects here, like so. As you can see, we deleted all the objects, but the layers are still there, so we can easily delete the layer as well by just right-clicking. And of course, you cannot delete the default layer for obvious reasons. Okay, let's go and do something interesting. Let's just say I just want to create a box here, like so. Let's just make sure we have enough segments here to play with. You'll understand in a bit why I'm adding more segments. All right, now if we go into the Modify panel, we've got access to all of these amazing modifiers. I mean, these things are like super powerful. You can do a lot of cool stuff with them. Here, if we just apply, let's just apply the bend modifier. Okay, and now we can see our box bending. Then we got other options here. We can change the direction. We can even change the bend axis as well. Creates a really complex structure. And don't worry about the limit effects. It's not important for the time being. But yeah, just get used to the other bits. First things first, the bend modifier is appearing here on top of the box. So that actually implies that yes, we got a modifier which is currently activated and it is doing its thing. So the beauty of the way the whole thing is structured within 3ds Max is you have non-destructible ways of building stuff. What I mean by that is at any moment you can disable this modifier or enable it. Okay, and the other bit is you can easily change the number of segments that you got here, and if I go below a certain limit, you'll see what's happening here. So because we only have one segment, there's not enough information for it to actually show off the whole curve of the bend. So that's quite useful. So and at any moment you can actually change the length and the height of the box as well. So it is quite powerful, the amount of stuff that you can actually do with it. You can go full 180 degrees as well. Let's just experiment with that. And then you can change the direction here as well. And then let's see what we can do. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So now we've just literally created this structure here, and we got complete control over, you know, the segments that we got. Let's just keep it optimized, because the other bit you need to worry about is that anytime you introduce segments, you have to make sure that there's no extra segments being shown here. By extra segments, what I mean is that if you got a flat surface, you don't necessarily need a segment to be shown in the middle of a flat surface, because, you know, it's just extra processing power, extra hardware for your PC. And your rendering is going to take longer. It's just going to be a messy one. So let's just keep everything nice and tidy and nice and optimized. So length segments, we don't need them. We can stick those to 1. At any moment you want to push something to a 0 value here, you can just literally right click on this area here within the arrows. Once you right click, it's going to turn it to 1 or 0, whichever the lowest value is. So now we got our structure here. As you can see here, we got the bend modifier on top of it as well, which is working fine. We can turn it on and off. So if we turn it off, we can actually see an outline of what the modifier is going to do once it's enabled. So which is quite handy. So let's keep it on for the time being. Other bit which is quite useful is the chamfer modifier. So those of you who are coming from the AutoCAD background or the architecture drafting background, you know exactly what this means. So what it does is basically it gives you the option to actually smooth out the hard edges on any given object. So if I enable that, as you can see here, it has applied it. Of course, the effect is quite drastic right now because the object scale is quite small. So we're just going to reduce the amount here. So as soon as we do that, we can see the edges going up quite well. So we can even increase the segment count as well to make it even smoother. So this is going to give us that really nice smooth look. And the plus point is, you know, it's super optimized. It's not going to be heavy on the rendering as well. So it's perfectly fine. We got some other options here as well, where exactly the chamfer modifier is going to be affected. Is it going to be affected from the stack, those selected edges and whatnot? But we'll get back to that in a bit. But yeah, we got all the other options here. You can either smooth out the entire object, or you can just smooth out the chamfered edges only. So that's going to give you a much better effect. As you can see here, it's not going to smooth out the whole object. It's just going to be on the actual chamfered objects here. So this was a good example of how you can actually stack up different modifiers together to create some really complex structures. Okay, so now we can even go crazier than that. We can even do stuff like subdivide. So what subdivide does is that it actually introduces new segments based on the area that we define. So right now we're at 2.3 millimeters, so that's quite small. The lower we get, the more new segments it's going to introduce. Make sure you don't go super low values, otherwise, you know, your machine can your PC might freeze up because, you know, it's just too much calculations to do. Let's just try a new one. Let's just try a twist. So let's just try a twist, see what that does. There we go. So yeah, you can have some really complex animations by using this effect. Again, at any point you can turn off the modifiers to go back down, or you can just go directly down to the box modifier and introduce more segments to the width. And the rest of the modifiers are gonna conform their task according to whatever is happening in the base object. So it's a really powerful tool that you can use. So yeah, you can experiment with all the other ones here. The other most important one that you can probably be using quite a bit, modifier wise, is the FFD modifier. So we got 5 different FFDs here. Just basics of it is literally you can just do like a 4x4 one, like so, and then you can activate the control points like so, and then you can select the control points, and then you can move around some of them to create some really controlled structures, which is quite helpful. So for example, now we got some sort of like an hanger structure, and then you can just move around these control points to however you want them to look. So for example, we can do something like this, so, and you can bring these control points up to smooth it out. So FFDs, super helpful, super useful. For sure you're going to be using them quite a bit. So once you're done with it, make sure to exit the sub-object level. So right now I'm in the sub-object level, that's why I won't be able to select anything else. Okay, so make sure you're out of the sub-object level by just clicking on the actual modifier on top, and then you can easily deselect. Okay, so what we've covered, you know, basics of how to actually create stuff in 3ds Max. So we started off from a box like so, and then we went up, we did the bend, added the chamfer on the edges, subdivided it, and then perform FFD operations on top of it, and we ended up that sort of a structure. Okay, so you can quickly create some really complex elements by using this method. Okay, I hope you learned something new today. Make sure to subscribe and like the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.